are in the shop series. So last week you saw us take an 8.8 liter Ford Mustang rear end and narrow that and add some more control arm brackets. Now, it just so happens that that rear end does not go with this Mustang that we were mini tubbing, but the rear end that is underneath this car, I believe, has already been shortened. So we're not going to do anything to the rear end of this car as for the rear end housing. But what I'm going to show you this week is how to mini tub a Fox body Mustang. Now, I've taken some time to go ahead and pretty much do the one side, and I left the other side undone. The reason I did that was I wanted to come in here and somewhat, not so much perfect the one side, but get the one side done, then I can take you guys over to the other side with me, and I can show you kind of a step-by-step type of deal on what you need to do to, in fact, mini tub a Fox body Mustang. So I'll bring you in here and kind of show you what the side that's already pretty close to done looks like, and then I'll take you over to the other side and show you where you need to start. So come with me and we'll show you how to do this deal. So when doing a mini tub on a Fox body like this, or any mini tub or anything that has to do with a electric grinder or anything like that, there's a couple safety things that you kind of want to do. So, well, and some things that, in my opinion, I'm doing. It's up to you whether you want to do those or not. But first thing you need is definitely a shield like this. Now, the safety glasses, those are good. But when using cutting wheels like this, they've been known to fly apart. So it's really better to have, I'll show you, the protection around the whole face. And even if you bring this down, you actually got protection from your chin also. Something you can do to keep it from fogging up that I haven't done is take Dawn dish soap and just rub the dish soap on the inside of this. That'll be a defogger. The second thing you'll need is a nice pair of gloves. So gloves, in my opinion, are good to work with sheet metal and grinding, things like that. And then you'll need you a good grinder. Now you'll notice that there's no guard on this grinder. I removed the guards off of my grinders because I personally think, in my opinion, they're in the way. I'll never tell you to do that. I'll never even suggest that you do that. But for me, having the guard out of the way is easier to use. It does hinder your protection from the blade that comes apart. Something else I'll tell you is another reason why the guard's missing. I like to use, I believe this is a 5 or 6 inch cutting wheel. There's a reason for that. There's a lot of places that you're going to cut through that you need the extra length on that blade to get all the way through, just to make it a little easier, so not making multiple cuts. So that's kind of the 3 things you need right away. After you get the rear end out, you're ready to start cutting. These are some of the things that you actually need to stay safe. So you should always wear your safety glasses up underneath the car so stuff don't fall in your eye. You don't have to go to the emergency room, get your eyelid flipped upside down and get crap out of your eye. Anyhow, those are some of the things that you should use, and then I'll bring you in here and show you where to start. So once you've decided that you have everything out of the way and you're ready to start cutting, a lot of people are going to do it different ways. So the way that I have chosen to do it is to get some things out of the way to make it a little easier to make my final cuts on opening this up for the other tub, or for the mini tub. So what I've chosen to do is I actually took the grinder, the cutting wheel, and cut all along the top of the fender, the factory fender well, and up the trunk pan, up into the fender well, not into the trunk pan yet, and cut the tub out, and then cut through here. See, this is one of the places I was telling you that having that bigger diameter cutting blade will allow you to get almost all the way through to make it easier to just trim about a 1/4 inch spot on the outside on both sides of the shock tower here. So once you get all that cut, and get it all the way cut, all the way around, this just pops out of the way. Now you have all this room here. Something else this will allow you to do is it'll be easier for you to get the correct measurements that you need to have to mark this in order to cut this where you need to cut it at. So on the back here, I'm not wearing my gloves. I suggest you wear your gloves. Don't do what I'm doing. There we go. So, like I was saying, on the back here, you pretty much want to lay a straight edge from the back of the factory tub on the driver's side to the back of the factory tub on the passenger side, and draw you a straight line straight out on both sides. And that'll be basically the first cut that you're going to make. And then what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to measure out, I believe, something like 9.5 inches or something like that. I'll measure on the other side and make 100% sure. But basically, you're just going to go right to the very back side of the rear shock tower here. That's basically what you're going to cut off. So if you're way over farther than that, you're going to come too far. So you just want to be to the very back side edge of that the rear shock tower here, all the way from the back to the front. So I'm going to make some marks and probably get some stuff cut, and then I'll bring you back in and show you a little closer on where I cut and where I marked, and what that big diameter blade is so good for having to help doing what we're doing here. So I'm going to get a few things marked up, and I'll bring you right back in. See there that I made my straight edge straight out from the inner fender here, and let me grab another tool. So here's the reason I go ahead and cut this out of the way. Here's the reason I cut this out of the way already. So I actually measured it's supposed to be 9 inches. So correction from just a second ago, it's not 9.5 inches, it is 9 inches. So, if you have a square like this, once this is cut out of the way, you can actually lay this square in here. You gotta kind of bang a couple spots flat so it gets all the way up against the inside here. But you can lay this square in here. If you can lay it fairly flat up against here so you know that it's square to the floor, you can come out here and put your marks on the outside. Make it a whole lot easier on you when you go to actually cut this deal or make your marks in general. Now let's see here. But like I said, the 9 is just to the outside edge of that shock tower right there. So I am going to go ahead and make a mark right on top of the seam sealer just to show me that that's where I am going to be. Then I'm going to come down here and make me another one to help keep me lined up. You can keep going on down through here just like that. Let me jump on the inside here. So you can come in here and do the same thing all the way down. Again, I've made some flat spots already to make this easier on myself right in through here. And I can just continue right on down here, making my 9-inch mark. So all I have to do, or all I need to do, is essentially run me a piece of masonry, which I have right here, all the way up and across, and therefore all I have to do is follow the outside edge of that or the inside edge of that tape line, and that's going to take me right where I need to be. So I'm going to check a couple of measurements here. Everything seems to be pretty much right where it needs to be. I'm going to make me a tape line, and I'll show you what that tape line looks like, and then we're going to do some cutting. Yeah. Alright, so I've got my masking tape laid out. I'm going to cut on the inside right along here. That's where my black line's at. I'm going to cut along the outside over here. That's going to run straight up and over right down where it needs to go. So that should look really, really nice, and it'll end up looking like this side when we get trimmed up and finished up here. How it goes just, all the way across there. So I'll set this thing up and put you guys in hyper duper speed. And here in just a few seconds, maybe a minute, we'll have this whole deal chopped out of here, and I'll show you what we got to do on the inside after we get to that point. I'll show you another reason that large diameter blade makes things so much easier. I'm going to bring you in here by hand and not use the stand, so you can actually really get in here and see exactly what it is that's going on. So I'll show you a little more on the other side, but there's multiple brackets and things that you have to cut off the frame rail, and I'll get to those on the other side when we get over there. There's also some places you have to box back in with steel, some steel plates, one of the steel plates being behind here, and one of the steel plates being here when you actually notch the frame. So the frame being notched will actually be pretty thin once it's finished there. But Klinkos are a good thing to have when doing something like this. And there's actually, you can't really see it, but there's a ridge inside the wheel tub in here that actually is nice for laying this tub into and making holes in order to put the Klinkos in the right spot. Now probably what I'll actually do is I'll probably end up making some holes in here and spot welding this through the tub into the factory wheel tub, or the wheel housing, the outer quarter housing here, and fastening it that way rather than doing some spot welds on the inside that look real ugly. Now here on the inside where it meets the trunk pan, we probably will do some spot welds on the inside because it'll hold the best, and we'll be able to seam seal over those and make those deals look real nice. So this is somewhat of what the finished product from the outside looking in will look like. There was a bunch of undercoating crap here that had to be removed, and your Mustang may have the same stuff. Really got to get that stuff out of the way before you do any type of welding or anything like that. So I'll take you over to the other side and show you kind of where to start once you get the rear end and the gas tank out and all the other things out of the way, so you can safely get in here and do this job. All right, I went ahead and got this deal cut out. Let me show what I'm talking about, where that long blade comes in handy. So that big long blade on the cutoff wheel, or the big long cutoff wheel, the big diameter one, helps you get through, you know, almost all the way through these brackets and crap that's on here, so on. So that'll help you get through almost all the way. Then you can come back through and cut up through the rest of this deal here, and helps it kind of get out of your way. So the next thing we're going to do is, there's a whole bunch of spot welds, as you can see, on this thing. So what I'm going to do is get my drill and my drill bit. They make actual spot weld specific drill bits or whatever, but I don't have one of those, so I'm not going to worry about using one of those. So I'm just going to get a good old drill bit and drill those out. If I drill all the way through, I'll just fill it back up. So you'll see what that looks like here in just a few minutes. And we're back. Let me turn this light a little bit. There you go. So there we go. All the little spot welds, there was a bunch of them in them brackets. Those all came out real nice and clean. Didn't blow through all the way anywhere. Got a couple tears I may have to fix, but I got it tacked around the edge of the new tub when it goes in here shortly anyhow. So the next step is going to be clean up the edges. Obviously the edges are a little sharp, got some burrs, things like that. We're going to clean up, and then I'm going to put my patch piece in here and in here. So I'm going to work on that right now, and then after I get that tacked in, I'll kind of show you what's up. Then I'll weld it all the way in, bring in, show you what's going on, and then we'll look into the next step, which after that will probably be grinding around this edge here, getting all this junk ground back, just like the other side. So, anywho's, all right, I'm gonna do a little work and I'll bring you back in shortly. Well, I've done a little work and it's been shortly. So, I had to cut out some new plates for this side because the ones that I cut for the other side were a little bit not the right length. So I cut some new plates. This one was the same here. This one I had to recut, and this one was a little different. I had to recut that deal. So anyhow, here we are. So now what I'm ready to do is assemble the second tub, which is probably the most difficult thing you'll ever do in your entire life because of the way that it is, because it's steel. And steel tubs are a pain in the rumpky dumpky to put together because of the way that they go together. So I'll bring you in and show you a little bit of that maybe. Unless it's making me mad, then I'll just show you the finished product. Anyhow, so we're at the point that it's time to put the tub together. And like I said earlier, grind this crap back. I'll probably bring the whiz wheel, the spinning wheel of death, in here and clean all this up shortly. So it'll be nice and pretty and clean and nice. So, all right, I'm gonna put a tub together. I'm gonna do a little more in here and show you the deal of the deal. So, all right, I'll see you in a minute. So I saved you guys the humor of watching me put this thing together, this steel tub, because boy, I tell you, a steel tub with the type of seam that this thing has all the way around here, tell you what, it is rough. Had to wrestle it. So as you can see, they have this handy thing called Klinkos. I'm not sure if I showed you that on the other side or not when I was doing it, but fits pretty good everywhere. Remember, this is that ledge I was telling you about on the other side. I don't know if you can see it better like that or not, but there's like a raised edge on the inside of the Fox body cars that you can lay that deal right up against. And if you measure from the outside of the tub to like this part of the tub here, when you cut, you gotta cut some of it off. It should be about 9 3/4 inches is all the more that'll be there. So you gotta cut just a little sliver off the outside edge of that. And that's what you come up with. So I clean coated in, and then as you see, there's other holes around each clean coat. That's where I'm gonna spot weld my tub on the inside. Now, the tool that I use to make the spot weld holes is this little dude here. So it's a air punch flange tool. So on one end, you have a little thing here that punches holes, and on that end, obviously you put a piece of straight sheet metal in there, and it makes a little flange on it. Obviously pretty simple. You can buy it at Harbor Freight or wherever you want. So that's what I use to punch my holes that I'm getting ready to spot weld in right here. So I'm gonna get this thing spot welded in, and then I'm gonna go ahead and spot weld the inside of the trunk too, and pretty much get this thing all the way welded in. And I gotta spot weld the inside on the other side as well. So let me get this spotted up in here, and then I'll bring you back and show you pretty much what the mini tub looks like finished up at this point. All right, so I just videoed all that, and for some reason the phone was turned the wrong way. So here we go again. All right, so like I said a second ago, that didn't work very well. These tubs come much longer than what this is. They're not fit like that. So that's something you gotta trim back yourself. And how I do that is I get it pushed up in here fitting the way I want, and then I take a permanent marker against the floor and draw me a line and whack it off. I leave a little bit of length here below the floor, just so it don't blow through, stuff like that. You can hammer that over and roll it over a little bit if you want, or just leave it, either way. So that's pretty much what it looks like for a mini tub on, well, I got a little gap there to fix, no big deal. That's a mini tub on an 79 to 93 Fox body. I assume the SN95s will be very similar. So tune into next week's episode, or our next episode of In the Shop. We're going to do the torque box reinforcements. So we'll be installing those, and we'll also do the through the floor subframe connectors. It may be 2 different episodes if these go quick enough. We may throw in the through the floor subframe connectors all in the same deal. As you see, this has already got some subframe connectors on it. Luckily, they're just bolted in and not welded. Pop them suckers right out and put the through the floor subframe connectors in it. So tune in to our next episode. Thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you next time. And here we are again. So both of the torque box reinforcements are done. I showed you how the one side looked. Well, guess what? Looks like exactly the same one on this side. I went ahead and put in the anti-roll bar. These are extremely very simple. I see no reason to spend any time on really showing you how to install it, so I went ahead and installed it. They really, I mean, these kits, you know, they just push into place. You just push them up, you know, inside the frame rails there. You make sure they're, you know, square like this here. Which the easiest way to do that is if you look up there at that pin, at this piece here welded to the floor. If you get that gap the same all the way across, guess what? It's square. So there's that. These tabs are actually already welded onto the rear end, so I didn't have to do anything with those from the fella that he bought this rear end from. So got the anti-roll bar in. So now we're on to the coilovers. So he actually wants to run a stock gas tank in this deal because there's a couple classes and a couple street race things that he wants to do that has to have like a factory gas tank location, factory suspension, blah, blah, blah. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna cut this spare tire well out straight across here. And then just right there, you know what I mean? So this part here will be whacked off, and it'll be, I'll put me a piece of plate in there, yada yada, piece of sheet metal. So that'll give me room for my coilover cross member right up in yonder way. So now this is far enough back to fit. That one, however, is not. I know it looks to be the same, but it's not. That one's a little farther forward than this one. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to do a little chop cut rebuild, you know what I mean? To make it all fit just fine and dandy, but that's what he wants. That's what he's gonna get. So he's got his brand new Viking rear shocks and so on. The shock mounting brackets that Viking sent weren't quite right. So, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know if you can tell why they're not quite right, but you might be able to figure it out. So, I took this hole spacing and went over on the computer here onto the plasma and cut me out some new ones. Now, I don't have any 1/4 inch thick material at the moment, so I took 2 pieces of 1/8 inch material. I cut 4 pieces out. I welded them together to make 1/4 inch thick, blah, blah. They'll work just fine. So another thing I have to do is I'm gonna make the actual cross member for the shocks for this deal. And I'm also gonna write down how I built it. So if any of you are interested in a coilover cross member that will fit with a factory gas tank, let me know and I'll whip up one for you. So I'm gonna get the this little bit of sheet metal and stuff cut out and try to whip up this cross member.